and welcome to another episode on Random Considerations. This is the next video in a series of videos I'm doing of my planting my Arbor Day foundation trees that I received in the fall shipment 2014. Each video that I do doesn't really differ too much from one to the next, but there might be some variations depending on where I'm planting the tree and that sort of thing. So each video as I upload them, I'm going to link them down in the description below for each tree that I am planting, in case you do want to go and watch some of the other videos. So when I say that the fall shipment or spring shipment, I generally order my trees in the latter half of the year, so my trees come in their fall shipment. Now, as you can see from this page on the Arbor Day Foundation's site, they actually tell you when they ship their trees. They have a fall shipment and they have a spring shipment. And if you want to check that out yourself, the web address is at the top of the screen, or at the top of the video. But their fall shipments generally are shipped out between November 1st and December 10th. And their spring shipments are shipped out between February 26th and May 30th. And that generally depends on where you live as to where in that time frame you fall. So for the fall shipment, they're going to take into account your climate. So it takes a bit longer for it to cool down here in central Texas than it does, say, in Minnesota. So for a fall shipment, they're going to get the trees sent up to those more northerly climates first, so that they can get them in the ground before it gets too cold. Whereas being in central Texas, I'm pretty much at the bottom of the list, and theoretically I could probably plant trees at any given time during any part of the winter, because with the exception of maybe late January, early February, it rarely ever gets too cold. Some winters we might actually get snow, but that's about the extent of our winters here. So as I say, we're at the bottom of the list, and so I usually get my tree at some point about a week, 2 weeks before Christmas, but according to the site, that they actually ship them on probably that very last day, December 10th, because of where I live. If I ordered my trees for the spring, I'd be at the first of the list, because I'd be one of the first climates getting warm enough to plant trees for the spring, in the spring. Now, something I'm mentioning in all of my videos: if you're going to plant trees in your yard, this is particularly true if you live in the city, but really this applies to no matter where. If you live anywhere near civilization, you kind of want to take this into consideration. If you're going to be digging holes in your yard to plant trees, or for any other reason, you need to contact your local utility offices or your city or whoever you contact in your area to have them come out and check to mark where all the any buried electrical lines are, any gas lines are, water lines, and that sort of thing. You don't want to be digging and electrocute yourself. You don't want to puncture a gas line. All of these things are very bad things to happen. If nothing else, you're going to mess up utilities for people around you, but more than likely you're going to injure yourself severely, if not kill yourself. So it's very important to, what they say around here anyway, I don't know if it's a national thing, but they say it around here, to call before you dig. Now, I've been here, I kind of know where everything is already, because I've been at this property for, let's see now, about 7 years, and I've kind of taken care of a lot of that stuff, so I pretty much know where everything is in my yard now. So I didn't do that for these videos, but I'm just saying that if you're just getting started on planting trees or anything in your yard, take that into consideration. So this video is actually my planting the plum tree that I purchased, and this particular variety is referred to as the Burbank Plum. I'm terrible with the actual formal names for trees, so I'm going to try to read this. I'm going to call it Prunus salicina. Salicina? Salicina? I don't know. But we're going to call it the Burbank Plum. And I chose this tree for a few reasons. Generally, when I pick my trees, I pick them based on the zone I'm in. Where I am in basically northerly Austin-ish, central Texas, I'm kind of right where Zone 8 and Zone 9 meet, at least in this part of the world. Now, if you ever look at the zoning map, which if you look back on that graphic with the plum tree, there's like the little map of the United States off to the side. that's a map of where the zones are. And you'll notice they're not straight horizontal lines. That depends on, there's a lot of factors that go into determining what a zone is. But where I'm at, I'm between zone 8 and zone 9. So when I choose a tree, I try to pick a tree that is going to at least do zone 8. I prefer to do trees that do zone 9 because since I am at that border, I want them to be able to handle the central Texas heat as much as they can. So I try to get a zone 9. And in this particular case, I got a tree that is supposed to be able to grow all the way down into zone 9. So take a look at that. If you go over and click on the link above, I think even the map itself, but if you click on the link above it where it says the hardiness zone lookup, you click on that, you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you what zone you're in. When I do it, because I'm at that border, it actually tells me zone 8 and zone 9. But in your case, you might be in smack dab in the middle of a zone and it'll give you just the one. So you definitely want to pay attention to that when picking any kind of a plant, whether it's a tree or plants for your garden or anything. Now, one thing I didn't take into consideration when purchasing this tree, like I normally do when I purchase trees, is to whether it's self-pollinating. Now, usually if it is a self-pollinating tree, they're going to specifically put in the description, in the bullet points, that it is a self-pollinating tree. They didn't do that with this one, which leads me to believe that without a second tree, it's not going to be able to pollinate and create fruit. I only purchased one of these trees, so until I get a second tree, it will not produce fruit. But I want to make sure that I can get it to grow here. This is my first time to plant a plum tree, so I don't want to buy two trees only to find that they're both going to die because they can't handle my area. Because even though it's meant to go in zone 9, even the zones aren't perfect as far as whether it'll grow here in this particular lot, in this particular place, in this particular part of the world. Because there's a lot of things to climate that affect plants. So just because something grows in zone 9 doesn't mean it'll grow here. That's what I mean by that. So I want to make sure I can get it established and get it going. And if it turns out okay, the next fall, I'll go ahead and order another plum, a Burbank plum, to go with it. So I have at least 2. Generally, I try to go with self-pollinating trees, but I really wanted a plum tree, and this one looked the best. So I went ahead and got just the one to make sure it goes. And if it does, then I'll get at least 1 more. If not 2 more, probably just 1 more because I'm running out of space in that area to plant the second tree. And another reason I've been getting fruit trees in general for the backyard, besides, well, here's the reasons. I didn't really mention this in the peach tree one that I've already uploaded, but first of all, I like fruit. So I like the plants that I plant to create food of some kind. So that's why when I garden, I generally do a vegetable garden. I don't really do a lot of flower gardening. So I kind of wanted, when I planted trees for the backyard, I wanted them to be trees that produce fruit. And another thing I like about getting these fruit trees is I can actually have more trees back there because fruit trees don't get nearly as large as shade trees do. And I want to have quite a few trees back there, so that's another good reason to do fruit trees. And another reason I like fruit trees is they all have blossoms all over them. I got a cherry tree that is still young, but I can hardly wait when it starts to put out the cherry blossoms. I mean, who doesn't like cherry blossoms? Cherry blossoms, the peach tree, the blossoms on the peach tree every February-ish, March. So that should be happening pretty quickly in the next month or 2. I'm pretty excited about it. I almost like the peach blossoms better than the peaches, although the peaches are really good. But fruit trees in general, that's how the fruit is made, is through their flowers first. So all of these trees are going to have pretty flowers on them at some point in the year. So I'm pretty excited about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to planting. Okay, for those of you that saw my peach tree video, that's the peach tree I planted, and we're just a few feet away from that. So as with every tree, the first step really is to start digging a hole for the tree. I have a wheelbarrow that I'm putting all my dirt in because I'm going to be reusing all the soil I'm taking out of the hole. The size of the hole is kind of, generally with these trees I do about 1.5 feet wide, and as far as depth goes, I basically want to ensure it's deep enough to where the bottom of the roots, the bare roots on these trees, because these are bare root trees, they don't come in a pot, the roots just kind of graze the bottom of the hole. You don't want to shove it in there. You kind of want your roots to go wherever they want to go for the most part. Unless the roots are trying to grow straight up, then you kind of want to tuck them down. Otherwise, they're not going to be very useful as roots. I have at least one tree, I don't know which one, remember which one, that did that. If you saw my peach tree video, you know I had the same thing happen here. There's a pecan tree in the neighbor's yard not too far away, and I think these are roots coming from that pecan tree. So what I do is I just kind of clip the roots as I come to them in a hole, and I don't worry too much about the whole root system, mostly because trees are very resilient. They can overcome a small clip in their roots. So I just clip them out of the hole itself. Once I've clipped the root, I keep digging until I reach the point that I want. And as I said before, all of the dirt is going into a wheelbarrow that's just off camera. So now we've got our wheelbarrow with our dirt, and we're going to mix in this garden soil. Now you can use whatever type of compost or gardening soil you'd like. I chose this garden soil that's specifically formulated for trees and shrubs. But you can use whichever you like as long as it adds additional nutrition to the soil. And you're going to be mixing the soil in with the native soil. And here's the reason that why I do this. You want your trees to get acclimated to the soil they're going to be in, which is basically the native soil. So you don't want to remove the native soil completely. But because it's a brand new plant and it needs a little bit more nutrition than it might get from your native soil, adding in this garden soil to the roots, where the root system is going to be, is going to help it better establish itself, so that as it grows, so that it can actually get going and start growing. And it won't be a huge deal that there isn't this extra garden soil as it expands out of the original hole you dug, because the root system generally is going to go out as far as the branches that you see above it go out, which is going to extend past the hole you're digging. So by the time it gets to that point, it's going to be pretty well set, and it's going to be able to handle the native soil, especially since you've already acclimated it to the native soil by mixing the native soil in with the garden soil. And try to break up some of the bigger clumps. And if you come across big chunks of grass and weeds, go ahead and chunk those out. It's not a huge deal if you're leaving some weeds behind, but you don't want to have big clumps, because these are going to start breaking down, and that's a pretty big chunk of stuff breaking down. And when things break down, the decomposition process can leach nutrients from the soil that your plant might need, and could actually cause harm to the plant that you just planted. So when you're ready, when it's all mixed together, I like to tip the wheelbarrow over, near but not into the hole, so that I can scoop that soil in easily. And all of that soil, not the native soil and the garden soil, is going to go in here. Now that might seem like you're doubling it, and here I got a little too close to the hole when I tipped the wheelbarrow over. So I'm having to scoop some of it back out to get the tree in. But even though it might seem like twice as much soil as you started with, because you added soil to the soil that you dug out of the hole, it's all going to go into this hole, and it's all going to start to condense down as time goes by, as it rains and that sort of thing. So you hold your tree until you've got enough soil in there to where the roots are being held steady on their own, and then you can let go of the tree. Once you've pretty much got your soil scooped out of the wheelbarrow for the most part, you can actually start to create a well. And what I mean by that is you kind of just swirl around the tree, the base of the tree, to where you've kind of got this indention, so to speak, into the soil with a little ridge around the edges, kind of like a volcano ridge or something. And the purpose of this is to hold the water in. When you water your tree, you want to hold the water in so that it can sink down into the soil. And since this is pretty loose soil, water should sink in fairly quickly. It shouldn't sit on the top for too long, until you get mulch around the base of your tree. And once you finish that, you move the wheelbarrow out of the way, and unlike me, you also move your garden tools out of the way, and then you just start watering it. And what I like to do is I just water and water and water until that well fills up to the top. Now in this case it didn't take too long because my soil was already fairly moist from recent rains that we had, but if your soil is particularly dry, then it might take you a bit longer. So that's pretty much planting the Burbank Plum. And as I said before, I'll add, as I upload each of these videos, I'll actually link them down below in the description of each video, so that regardless of which one of these Arbor Day videos you're on, you can click over to watch the other ones. And as I also said, there isn't a huge variation from video to video, but I might occasionally mention things in one video that I didn't think to mention in the previous videos, so it's up to you whether you want to watch the other videos or not. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you are interested in seeing more videos from our channel, which isn't strictly gardening and tree related, I try to do all kinds of things, go ahead and click subscribe down below as well. You can also check us out on Facebook, which is linked down below, and you can check us out on our website, which is randomconsiderations.com. And then if you're into genealogy, I have a section of Random Considerations devoted to genealogy. And I also have a second YouTube channel for that purpose called Monkey and My Tree. I'll have all these things linked down in the description below. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching and have a great, great day.